Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope I am loud and clear.
Oh, yes,
Awesome.
yes,
By
you
the
are.
show of thumbs up. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Um, I can see we have very on time, punctual participants. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Priscilla Ama-Ado. I am the Comms and Advocacy Graduate Training with Y Plus Global, and we are so happy to have you here today with us at this virtual launch of the We Are the Change curriculum, which is a capacity building curriculum for AGY serving and led community organizations. So we would really appreciate if we could get a few introductions in the chat box. We want to know where you are coming from, which country, which organization. I think when we are having these sessions, we want to also know who is joining, which uh, localities do they represent, or which communities do they represent. It gives us an idea of why you are interested in this um, program. So we promise to make this event as succinct as much as possible, and we promise you are going to leave here with as much input and knowledge and resource as expected. So I would like to welcome you all once again. This webinar is a collaboration by Y Plus Global, PATA, and Her Voice Fund. And this is a virtual launch of a launch that was previously done um, uh, during the HIV and Adolescence Conference in Zambia, the International HIV and Adolescent Conference in Zambia last year, which was a physical launch. However, we are doing this virtual launch to ensure that um, our work, our resource gets to as much communities as much as possible, because we understand the essence of empowering AGYW community-based organizations. And this capacity building curriculum is very important because it holds knowledge, resources, information that is essential to expanding the capacities of these organizations who are up and coming and are having much impact within the communities they lead. So we are going to briefly have uh, an overview, understand what is this We Are the Change curriculum, what does it entail. We're going to have a brief overview from our rep.
Priscilla, I cannot hear you on this side.
Okay, can you hear me now? Please, participants, if you can show a thumbs up. Am I audible? Okay. I don't know if Machidiso, perhaps it may be a network issue.
I think it was a network on my side. I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Sorry, Mag.
Okay. So we are going to have an overview. As I said, we are going to have an overview. If you can mute, if you are not talking, please, we would appreciate participants to mute so we can have a smooth engagement. Okay, so quickly, we are going to have an overview from a PATA representative. Kuji Molambo from PATA is going to share with us what We Are the Change AGYW capacity building curriculum is all about. Kuji, if you are here, can you please unmute? Okay, so Kudzi is currently facing some internet challenges, but that is not going to stop us from continuing this session. So we are going to hear from Kudzi in a while, in a few minutes shortly. But we have expert speakers who are going to take us through a few a panel discussion uh, of why it is important to ensure that AGY communities are empowered or to have access to these necessary resources, such as this curriculum. And I can see people are sharing where they are coming from, and it is so nice to meet you all. I see you are coming from different countries, and that is so awesome. So we are going to have our first speaker, who is going to take us through how this tool or this resource is important, or how it affects AGYW communities. What essence is it? What is so important about having this capacity building tool? What capacity are we building? What does this tool really entail, and how important is it? And so we are going to have Matidiso Mokitini. Hello, Matidiso. So I'm going to give uh, uh, a brief introduction of who Matidiso is. So Matidiso is a program manager and an AGYW lead at Mosepile Foundation Development Forum, which is a dedicated advocate for empowering adolescent girls and young women. Matidiso has a strong volunteerism and leadership development background, uh, and she has spearheaded various projects focusing on sexual and reproductive health rights, community led monitoring, and mental health awareness. She has experience in strengthening capacity building initiatives, public speaking engagements and advocacy strategies to reduce socioeconomic and cultural barriers. She is also an executive member of the AGYW Foundation in Lesotho. So Matidiso continues to be an impactful drive by amplifying AGYW voices and fostering inclusive society. So we can see that Matidiso is indeed an expert when it comes to AGYW capacity building. Matidiso, can we hear from you? We are so grateful you could join us today. And we would like, it's so lovely to see you. And so we would like to know.
Thank you.
Yes, I hope the internet is good and we would be able to hear you loud and clear. Okay. So, Matidiso,
Okay,
we would like,
I can hear you now.
okay, great, great. So we would like to know um how what is the We Are the Change curriculum? What is this curriculum?
We are the change curriculum. Is a curriculum that was developed to empower AGYW saving and led organizations so that they are able to implement programs that empower adults and girls and young women in the communities. It was realized that most AGYW saving and led organizations lack a lot of capacity. They lack robust internal systems. They also have limited access to professional development opportunities for the programmatic staff. It was also realized that there is a need for the capacity needs from technical to organizational systems. Therefore, the curriculum was developed. It was quite a collaborative process, I might say, because it involved a thorough assessment whereby a tool, a capacity assessment tool, was developed and it was sent to our organizations. My organization, Municipal Foundation Development Forum, was one of the lucky organizations. This capacity assessment tool covered different topics areas, including governance, planning, finance, sustainability, human resources, monitoring and evaluation, networking and advocacy, community, human rights, gender, and AGYW programs, basically. So it was sent, and we sat down as key staff to discuss our strengths as an organization and our priority needs. And then we sent the capacity assessment tool. Afterwards, there was a stakeholder consultation workshop whereby all AGYW saving and led organizations were gathered in one roof for a 2 days consultation meeting. That's where we were discussing the common strengths and the common weaknesses and gaps that we have as AGYW saving and led organizations. Many adults and girls and young women showed up representing their organizations. That's why we realized that we have problems with mobilizing resources. We have unstable funding. For example, we have here in Lesotho, we have lack of access to government funding, and we also realized that we really need capacity on organizational M&E and program designing. This was through this stakeholder consultation. So basically, the development of the curriculum was quite a collaborative process, from assessment, a thorough assessment, to stakeholder engagement and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matidiso. I think we have some questions coming in already, but please be assured we are going to respond to your questions. But Matidiso, from what you have shared, it means this curriculum was, made with the engagement of AGYW. It wasn't just an organization standing up to, do what it felt like. This was AGYW led, AGYW created from what you have said. But we also want to understand how can this resource advance gender equality, inequality, and address the barriers of gender inequality and the barriers for meaningful change. How can this resource advance that?
Okay. Just as I mentioned, some of the challenges that the curriculum, we are the change curriculum, empower adults and girls and young women saving and led community organizations to become more resilient, more effective, and sustainable agents of change in the fight against gender inequality. By providing the necessary tools, the resources, the knowledge, the curriculum, the tools enable the organizations to address some of the barriers to meaningful change. And this contributes a lot to equitable and inclusive society for adults and girls and young women. And one of the important points I can make on how this curriculum advance gender equality and address barriers is that, first of all, the curriculum targets AGYW saving and led organizations. That is very important. And like I mentioned, AGYWs were fully engaged in developing this curriculum. And so it empowers AGYW saving organizations, promoting their good governance, enhancing sustainability, and helping them align with national and global goals, as well as mitigating risks and promoting gender responsive programming, and building partnerships and collaborations, of course. And so by promoting the good governance for AGYW saving and led organizations, the tools help them learn how to establish transparent and accountable organizational structures. And this ensures that the decision-making processes are inclusive and they reflect on the needs of adults and girls and young women. And this is very important because these organizations, when they use these tools, we are the change tools and resources, they will be able to advocate for gender equality, provide tailored support services, and create safe spaces for adults and girls and young men once they have good governance. Another thing is that this tools and resources, we are the change tools and resources, help equip organizations with necessary and mobilize resources effectively. And this helps because there are a lot of, for example, that assessment tool, it helped as organizations that serve adolescent girls and young women to be able to identify the strengths that we have, some that we did not even know that we had. And it helped us to realize where we are lacking in terms of securing funds so that we are able to sustainably provide programs or programs that serve AGYW very well. So these tools are very important for promoting long-term sustainability and ensuring continued support for programs and initiatives benefiting adults and girls and young women. And another important point is that the tools and the resources encourage the organizations to align with national and global goals. That is very important because the organizations contribute to broader efforts aimed at advancing gender equality and empowering AGYWs. And this increases visibility and credibility of organizations, making them more attractive to potential funders, like I mentioned. Also, on the issue of mitigating risks, the tools that are provided in the curriculum help very well for organizations to be able to develop mitigation strategies before even encountering such risks, so that they do not hinder the programs. And this is very important because now the organizations are able to address issues such as financial instability, governance deficiencies, external threats. Organizations can better safeguard themselves for the interest of adults and girls and young women that they serve. Another thing about these tools and resources is that they encourage collaborations and partnerships, and partnerships with different agencies, other civil society organizations, and private sectors. This is very important for mobilizing resources. And the tools and resources, the changed curriculum tools and resources also promote gender responsive programming. It encouraged the AGYW saving and led organizations to adopt a gender responsive approach to program design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. They even help organizations to be able to develop strategic plan. Yes, to develop a strategic plan so that they are able to implement the programs very well. Overall, I can say that we are the change curriculum really empower adults and girls and young women saving organizations to become more effective agents of change in addressing gender inequality and overcoming barriers to meaningful progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mutigizo. So you have spoken at length a lot about what this We Are the Change curriculum is. If you are just joining us, you just heard from Mutigizo, who spoke extensively on what the We Are the Change curriculum is, which is a guideline, a tool to help empower and build the capacity of AGYW 7 community based organizations. Please take a look into the chat. You are going to see a link that is going to guide you to this curriculum. So you can understand, you can first have access to this tool, and secondly, have access to this large knowledge that is going to help you if you are someone who already is leading a community-based organization, or it's in your plan to lead or to create an AGYW community-based organization. This tool is going to be helpful for you. And Mutidiso has explained at large at how it can advance. Firstly, what does this tool contain? How can it help you to access resources that are going to help expand your vision for your community-based organization? So thank you so much, Mutidiso. We are going to go on to our next speaker, who is in the person of Isabelle Intekale, who is a young gender and human rights activist advocating for the recognition and engagement of AGYW in spaces where their ideas can shape HIV and primary health care response. She is currently working with the Lesotho Network of AIDS Services Organization and is the Her Voice One ambassador for Lesotho under Y Plus Global. Intebele has established and led numerous AGYW groups in her community and in her country as well to allow for peer-led conversations around health, socioeconomic, and political issues, as well as recommendations for better interventions. So Intebele has been on the front lines. I think a lot of us are probably like Intebele within our countries and communities. So Intebele, uh, how are you doing? Please, let's see your lovely face. Let's hear your wonderful voice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Priscilla.
Oh my God, it's so awesome to see you. So, quickly,
Thank you.
Intebele is going to tell us how she envisions the curriculum helping empower AGYW. Looking at your track record of being part of this development process, how do you envision this curriculum helping empower AGYW CBOs, and what current gaps or needs does your community lack that you believe this curriculum can help address? Over to you, Isabel.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I hope I'm very audible, because if I'm not, I'd have to take off my video and so that I can just speak. So okay, so Matsidiso here has spoken a lot about what I wanted to speak on, because probably we are from Lesotho, and I led the whole engagement of the AGYWs serving CBOs, and her organization was part of that. This is why so many things that we're going to be saying are going to connect somehow. But I'm going to try to speak on what she didn't speak on, and maybe put emphasis on some of the points that she has mentioned. So I'm going to mention about 4 challenges that we have seen for our organizations in Lesotho, which, like she said, it's governance, and the other one is sustainability. The other one is financial management, and the other one is innovation challenge in general, especially when we talk on resource mobilizations. So how I think this curriculum is going to be assisting in this AGYW implementing CBOs is that from being part of the engagement of them, and after realizing the self-assessment they did and the gaps that they showed that needed capacity, I realized that so many of them do not have constitutions. Even if it were the CBOs beyond the sample of the AGYW implementing organizations that we had at the time we were doing the assessments, but a lot of them do not have constitutions, which is one thing that if organizations do not have this, they are unlikely to be considered for funding by any donor. It is just a luck that her voice can still have mercy on small organizations not having constitutions to be funded. But overall, organizations can't be funded because their governance, it means their governance is not stable. If the structure, such as board members who act as overseers and stewards of the organizations, are not there to maybe formulate the constitution and maybe see to it that the missions and visions of the organizations are leading to the goals and objectives of the organization. That is one of the challenges that our organizations are having, which is governance in short. And the curriculum is talking more on training and offering mentorship for our AGYW implementing organizations to be given skills to be able to have constitutions, be able to recruit board members that can't, or maybe that are in support of the mission and vision of the organization for its sustainability. The other challenge that I've mentioned of financial management or financial challenges, I think it is the one that we have seen, because our organizations do not have proper policies that are going to allow them to be competitive enough to secure funds, because they are trusted by donors to handle funds effectively with transparency. They do not have a proper framework to guide in compliance, in transparency, like I've said, and that can help them to compete effectively in the spaces of donor-funded project. So the curriculum is going to assist them to better perform through having these policies that are going to act as standard guidance to deal with the organizational issues, and that are going to be assisting as internal and external guards, or maybe guards for us to know that at least internally we have things like the HR policies, we have procurement and finance policies that are going to be ensuring that internally things are done in order. We are having HR policies that are going to be talking on leaves of people, maybe the paternity and maternity leaves, the compassionate leaves, maybe that are going to be touching on study leaves and all those things that are going to be even touching on motivation of staff to allow performance to maybe increase. So these are some of the things that are going to be assisting when we use the curriculum, because they are well mentioned inside the curriculum. The last but not least is it is going to be assisting in promotion of innovation and creativity to reach and empower communities that we are serving, which is in AGYW in this regard, because I realized that the issue of capacity is that it opens your mind to think outside the box. So after the trainings that we're going to be getting, that are going to be exactly responding to the needs that we have realized during the assessment, it is going to continually open our minds for new advocacy strategies that are going to come out. I can make a very short example regarding the issue of capacity building and opening your mind for maybe broad open mind in terms of new ways of doing things. We had a challenge, I think it was almost after COVID, we had a challenge of lack of menstrual health and hygiene commodities for adolescent girls and young women, especially in the rurals. And to secure funding or people who are going to support the initiative was not really easy until after capacity building that we got from someone somewhere and from their voice, because we normally got a capacity on advocacy strategies and all that. That is when we thought of a strategy called #CompetingForImpact campaign that helped us to collect as many sanitary towels as possible, where communities had to compete to deserve pads for their own communities. I'll explain it later, but not today. But it was a very good initiative that brought so many pads for our AGYWs. So that is how this capacity building is going to be assisting in our AGYW-led organizations. And lastly, I'm doing this quick. It is going to be assisting in promotion of sustainability and strengthen resilience of these AGYW implementing organizations. Like I've said, they're normally very small organizations that need a lot of support, need a lot of trainings, a lot of skill impartation, a lot of techniques to stay resilient. And if only you find that normally they're even based in the communities and they have a very strong base in the community. So if we can target those community workers like healthcare workers, young healthcare workers, young peer educators, and then we give them training on advocacy, on resource mobilization that will even assist in economic strengthening for them. That is going to be building a solid rock for us to say there's even beyond, or maybe even if we can't secure funding for now, but our organizations are strong enough to sustain themselves even beyond global fund funds. So, and yes, I think that is all for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkebele. I think you've really gone in depth into the critical issues. What are the issues that we are facing now? And how you envision the curriculum can help CBOs to be empowered to achieve the visions within their communities. Intabele, before you go, there is just one last question I want you to briefly answer on, and I think our participants are also interested in knowing this because I am. Why is it important to build AGYW's leadership in the HIV space? Can you draw on any form of your personal experience to tell us why it is important to build AGY's leadership in the HIV space?
Thank you so much. So this is actually a very interesting question for me because it talks about me. It is very important because the HIV space that we are in, it is not very easy to navigate the space because it needs innovative people who are going to be ready to go against normal. And that the innovations that we come with to deal with maybe prevention and treatment of HIV among AGYW, we bring so many innovations like this one of saying that we need to be meaningfully engaged in platforms. That is abnormal for girls to be wanting to be in spaces where they were not called. So for us to be wanting to be in those spaces and in these spaces doing our advocacy, doing mobilization, representing the views and recommendations of how things should be done to influence the girl-centered policies and guidelines. It needs a person who is trained on leadership skills of being thick-skinned and resilient, so that that even when you are on a table or in a table of around the table with authorities that will say things, because there's a time when you think something is making sense to you, but it's nonsense for everyone in the room. But if you know your truth and you have evidence that this is really working for adolescent girls and young women, you stand your point and you emphasize on that nonsense of yours because it's actually making sense in the lives of AGYWs. So it builds confidence that at least I have something. I have something. I'm given skills to stay confident and to stand my point, to say my truth, even if I'm shaking, so that I know that it's going to make impact in the communities. The last one is that it helps them to represent well when given a chance, because it's one thing to be drained to take up spaces or linked to spaces, and it's another thing to actually stand and speak representing the views of AGYWs. And the other thing is that leadership skills help us to know that we have to be patient enough, even in the spaces, to listen, so that when we say or maybe we give opinion, we have listened enough to make sound opinions that are going to be contributing to the lives of AGYWs. Yes, we don't say things just to say them, because already we are a group that is considered very weak and very disorganized. So we have to be very good in listening so that we say things that are not going to be soiling our reputation even more. But even in our case, soiling our reputation is not a problem, guys, especially if you're going to speak what is going to work for AGYWs. Like I said, most of the times our sense is nonsense to others, so we have to stick to that. And leadership skills given to us are going to be empowering us to effectively take spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabella. That was really on point and really helpful. So we are going to quickly get a brief presentation from Kudzi, who is going to take us through briefly the structures of what this curriculum is all about, what are its specific objectives, and if indeed it is adaptable to other countries, other regions. Kudzi is going to quickly take us through that. Kudzi, are you there?
Hello, Priscilla. Good afternoon, good morning to everybody. I apologize that I wasn't able to connect a bit earlier. There's internet connectivity problems over here, but I think my presentation comes timely. I mean, it will tie in together everything that you've heard from everybody else, hopefully. I will not be able to show my face via camera, unfortunately. I'm afraid I might disconnect. And if you would be so kind as to show my slides as well, if you're able to.
Okay. Yeah, honest. Thank you so much, Tawanda, for that. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So like I said, good afternoon and good morning to everyone. I'll just be giving an overview of the change curriculum in terms of its structure, the objectives, and some of the key components. Like I said, I'm sure you've already heard quite a lot from the speakers that have gone before me. The next slide, please. Sorry. Okay, so just to go a little bit into the rationale for the curriculum, as we all in this call are very aware, community-based and community-led organizations are essential. They are an essential part of the HIV response. They understand the needs and the challenges on the ground, and they're already doing great work in sub-Saharan Africa. But there are some challenges or issues that they face. I think some of the presenters have already gone through some of this. They often lack robust internal systems and structures, which will allow them to qualify for grants and funding. Some of the programmatic staff do not always have access to opportunities of professional development, and there are some capacity needs that they're often faced with, and they range from the technical to organizational systems. And more than anything, they struggle with funding and need support to be able to mobilize these resources to do their work. So what was the solution to this then? Y+ Global Partner and Her Voice Fund, with support from Global Fund, came together to work side by side with CBOs to co-develop this curriculum that we're talking about today, and also to ensure that the content and the structure not only reflects those technical needs, but also appeals to the youth. The curriculum is very engaging, it's fun, it's interactive, and it's very simple and easy to use. So we worked with community-based organizations from 5 different countries: Malawi, Lesotho, Botswana, Eswatini, and Namibia, 37 organizations in general in developing this curriculum. And the photos that you see in front of you are the different groups from the different countries that we worked with, very vibrant groups. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, great. So in terms of the process itself, it started between April and September in 2022. At the beginning of it, April to May was the selection process, looking for organizations who would bring in applications to participate in the process. And then between June and July, we had an assessment of the qualifying organizations. The curriculum starts with an assessment process that I'll talk to in a minute. And then we also had stakeholder consultations with Ministry of Health and partners that work in the spaces, HIV, SRHR spaces. And in July was the design of the curriculum based on our findings and from the assessments and the consultations. And then there was a piloting process that happened between August and September, where 3 of the 5 countries were used to pilot the modules. In terms of the selection process, we did have a criteria guiding us, a couple of points that I've just highlighted to give you a sense of what we were looking for. The organizations must be community-led or community-based. Organizations known and recommended by key stakeholders, for example, preference for AGYW led where possible, and then preference for local indigenous organizations. So those were some of the criteria. And in total, we got 85 organizations applying for the process, and 37 were selected to move forward, as I mentioned earlier. Please move on to the next slide. Okay, so the process with the curriculum, as I mentioned, starts with an assessment of the needs of the organization, the capacity building needs. And the reason why we do this is we want an overview of the main capacity gaps that exist, and we want to identify common needs And we also want to identify opportunities and assets that are in the environment of the organizations already, and to stimulate discussion about what would be the work plan to respond to the different needs. Areas that were assessed in the curriculum development, there's 9 of them in total: governance, planning, finance, sustainability, human resource, M&E, networking and advocacy, community, human rights and gender, and then AGYW programming. So those are the 9 buckets that were assessed. And I mentioned earlier the self-assessment tool that we start off with. So with the self-assessment tool, the tool is best completed by a small group of people in the organization, a group that might be representing teams from, different departments, programs, finance, management, all of that, to get kind of an insightful discussion of the organization's strength and areas that need further strengthening. The tool itself consists of different sheets. So all those 9 areas that I talked to would have a different sheet in the tool, which align to the different capacity areas in the organization. The curriculum really explains how to use the tool in its introduction. So that would be clear for anyone who's using this. And then, and this is an example under the project management and monitoring area, capacity area. So you'd have like what the component is, for example, active development and planning. And then a main question: does the organization plan the development of its activities involving all people concerned? And then a scale of 1 to 4, where the organization responds to immediate needs with little planning, to where annual plans are developed and agreed upon by board. So every organization will score themselves according to where they think they fit, and then you get an average from this assessment. In this particular example, you have their scores have totaled up to 9, and the capacity areas investigated were 5, so the average is 1.8. There's also space for having needs identified and actions to address those needs in this assessment. So this was just an example from project management and monitoring. I thought I'd also include a slide to show the capacity assessment scores that were done during curriculum development. This is a snapshot across all the countries that we did. This was just to highlight that we then took all the organizations and kind of averaged out their scores. And in the 9 buckets or capacity areas that I highlighted, still with the example of project management and M&E, you can see on the first row that, the countries were scoring, where the countries were scoring based on the average, and which countries might have needed more capacity strengthening in this area compared to others. If we can move to the next slide. Yeah, so we also, as I mentioned, from the capacity assessments and the stakeholder consultations and hearing from individuals from the different CBOs, summarize the main gaps that are being identified. I think when I joined in, one of the speakers was talking to some of the gaps that they've personally identified in their countries as well. So with governance, non-functional boards, lack of strategic plans, M&E plans not available, or they focus on outputs with limited outcome measures, financial management, majority had no qualified staff, and they were saying that audits are too expensive. And then with resource mobilization, this was a main gap across all our CBOs in all the countries. Reporting, there were issues of poor donor management, networking and advocacy. They said they limited opportunities and platforms to do this. They felt they were not big enough in organization, and some felt they were not supported well by the principal recipients and sub-recipients in that country, the ones that received the bigger grants. Human rights and gender, they had some knowledge of the concept, but these were not fully integrated into their approaches. And then with AGYW programming, for this capacity area, most of our organizations were implementing interventions that were targeted to AGYW, and most had a good understanding of the realities of adolescent girls and young women in their context. Please move to the next one. Okay, yeah, so then again, a summary, what do CBOs see as capacity strengthening? So they want to build on what is already there. They want something that is asset-based, adaptation to survive and thrive and gain control of their future. They want to initiate and sustain change in the organization. And they really said that this process can't happen in one training. You need some kind of long-term mentorship in order for the process to be effective and to be, sustainable in the organization. Yeah, I think I'll go through the next slide now. Okay, what works and what doesn't work? What we got from talking to that everyone is part of the learning in the organization. They needed everyone to be part of this learning. Bottom up meets top down. Community-centered learning from beneficiaries and feeding that up to management, but also management filtering down to the other staff members to make sure that, the learning is bottom up meets top down. And then this model of capacity strengthening is not a one size fits all. Different organizations will have different needs. So during that assessment period, it's important to identify what are the key needs and then model them to fit and benefit the organization that you're working with. And then focusing on the needs of a specific organization. Okay, so to move on to what the curriculum actually looks like, this is it in a snapshot. We've all been seeing what the cover is, and the table of contents goes through all those 9 capacity areas that I have talked. So we teased down all of them. I had somebody talking about constitution when I joined. We teased them down to that kind of level. How do you get one? How do you get a bank account? How do you develop a board? All of those components are in there. As you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. I think I'll leave it at the snapshot. So in terms of opportunities and next steps, what has happened so far is that after the curriculum was finalized, we had a soft launch of the curriculum in Zambia during the International Workshop on HIV and Adolescence in October last year. Dissemination has happened at different platforms. We have the print version available in our websites for Y+ Global and PATA. And also there's an online training that's available through the PATA Linking and Learning Hub. An online version of the curriculum is available and accessible to everyone who might want to use it. And then online learning hub, the learning hub curriculum will complement the in-person sessions, either independently or by itself. They're very complementary. And then, what's happening with the curriculum right now, I think you heard from Matsuri, so that the curriculum is being used in Lesotho right now as capacity building for community-based organizations over and beyond the scope of AGYW led. So that's how applicable and how essential and useful this curriculum is. It was designed for AGYW initially, but it's scalable and the scope can go to any community-based organization that needs to strengthen capacity in the different areas that I've mentioned. The next slide, please. I think that's my thank you and acknowledgement slide, actually, the last one. May I see? Okay, the slide is not coming up, but thank you very much for your attention this afternoon. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you. Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you so much, Kudzi. I think that was really comprehensive. That was a great presentation. We are going to be sharing the link again to this curriculum if you haven't already received it. It is also on our Y+ Global website where you can find it under resources. So thank you so much, Kudzi. Now we are going to go on to our next speaker, who is equally a Y+ Global staff like I am. And she is in the person of Ivy Jabet, who is a junior project officer at Y+ Global. She has a bachelor's degree in public health and is enrolled in a master's in development studies. She is a PMP certified project manager and possesses a wealth of experience when it comes to HIV advocacy and its programming at national and global levels. So aside from HIV programming and advocacy, she is passionate about building the capacity of AGYW and aims to ensure that they are meaningfully engaged in decision-making spaces. So over to you, Ivy. Ivy, can we hear you? Can we see you?
Yes, I hope you can hear me, Priscilla.
Yes, I can, and I can
Oh,
see you as well. Awesome. So Ivy is going to briefly tell us or highlight to us some examples of Y Plus Global programming or programs that have helped build the capacity of AGYW. Over to you, Ivy.
thank you so much, Priscilla, and thank you to the previous speakers, especially Kudzi, who has helped a lot to provide context to why we are here today. And I will rush through the projects I will be highlighting today. And one of the projects is definitely the Her Voice Fund project, which is the reason we are here today. And the project is majorly focused on supporting and empowering women and adolescent girls to participate meaningfully in political spaces, as well as in policy designing, implementation, and evaluation. So the project aims to see a society where women and adolescent girls enjoy social inclusion and engagement at all levels of decision making. The project has experienced a range of success with a diverse portfolio of small grassroots grants with an average of between 6 to 8 grantees across each of the 13 priority African countries that the project supports. And through this, close to 25,000 adolescent girls and young women have been empowered to engage meaningfully in decision-making platforms and build their ability to advocate for policies and programs that support their health and well-being. Besides the Have Voice Fund project, we have the Count Me In project, which is a project that was funded by the Global Fund until last year. And in 2023, we supported youth-led organizations, including those led by adolescent girls and young women, to participate in the GC7 process through finding and also availing resources like the resource that we are launching today. So I will highlight the efforts and impact that was achieved by one women-led organization, that is the Leader Foundation in Namibia, which we supported to participate in the GC7 process for the first time last year. And with limited funding and limited amount of time to implement these resources, the project successfully supported adolescent girls and young women to engage in key stakeholder meetings, and they also successfully registered as a consortium within their country, which increased their probability to be included in the next funding cycle. They also conducted dialogues with key recipients of the Global Fund and also PEPFAR and USAID. So this is just to speak to how empowering adolescent girls and young women yields to great results. We also have the YouthWise project, which is a youth and women-led project that is supported by AIDS funds. YouthWise aims to amplify the voices of young people living with HIV in especially Kenya and Malawi, to enable them practice self-care and fulfill their sexual and reproductive health and rights needs. Since its inception, the project has supported the country networks to effectively advocate for inclusive HIV and discharge services, products, and resources, and for respectful policies and laws. And the project has seen the success of new policies being launched and policies being revised. Is important and speaks to how empowering adolescent girls and young women actually yields results. Thank you, and over to you.
Okay. Ivy. Yeah, thank you so much. So you have spoken on the programming of Y Plus Global, and just to highlight that if you would like to learn more about the programs Ivy has mentioned, you can head over to our website and get an understanding of which regions these programs cover, who is supporting these programs, and how you can also be involved in these programs. So Ivy, we just want to quickly understand, why is it uh, we are launching this curriculum in the spirit of International Women's Day. We want, and the theme is to inspire inclusion. So we want to understand what are the building blocks for a successful AGYW-led intervention and programming when it comes to inspiring inclusion.
Thank you, Priscilla. On this, I think meaningful and ethical involvement of adolescent girls and young women are words that we continue to hear time and time again. But again, there are words that are extremely important if we are to ensure that our interventions are successful and actually meet results. By ensuring that adolescent girls and young women are actively involved in the design, implementation, and evaluation of interventions, we get to experience their perspectives and experiences, which should be valued and incorporated into decision-making processes. Speaking to this, we should get to a point where adolescent girls and young women leading projects that serve them is a given. It should not be a factor of people who are not adolescent girls and young women influencing projects that are targeted at adolescent girls and young women. The other issue that has been spoken to before is tailoring approaches. As Kudzi has mentioned, there is no one size fits all. Developing interventions that are specifically designed to address the unique needs and challenges faced by adolescent girls and young women is a step in the right directions. These include considering factors such as their age, their socioeconomic status, their cultural background, and geographical locations. We have adolescent girls and young women, but we also have adolescent girls and young women in their unique population. The other building block is mentoring and providing leadership opportunities. Creating opportunities for adolescent girls and young women to develop their leadership skills and become advocates for themselves and their communities. Ntabeleng mentioned that empowering adolescent girls and young women with skills ensures that we actually achieve results in the spaces they are engaged in. It is one to provide spaces to adolescent girls and young women, but it is another to ensure that these adolescent girls and young women have enough knowledge, have enough skills, have enough capacity to actually influence change through the opportunities that they are presented. And I am happy that we have this curriculum. It is definitely one of the steps in the right direction, and it will help support grassroots and women-led organizations to be empowered to ensure that they are able to yield results for the populations that they advocate for. My last point will be on strong partnerships and supporting adolescent girls and young women through collaborating with a diverse range of stakeholders. As Kudzi was presenting, I was happy with how engagement was, right from the local grassroots level to international level to involving NGOs, community-based organizations, healthcare providers. So we are an ecosystem that we could really use, tapping on each other's abilities, tapping on each other's experiences, right from those of the adolescent girls and young women. In the interest of time, I'll stop there so that we have others presenting as well. And thank you so much, Priscilla. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ivy. That was really comprehensive as well. You really tied together what the other speakers presented on, and we appreciate that. So, if you have just joined us, this is the We Are the Change curriculum launch, and we have shared links to accessing this curriculum, but it can also be found directly on our website as well. And we are coming to the end of the panel discussion with our last speaker, who is in the person of Oluwatoyin Chukwuedozie, who is a young woman who is passionate about amplifying the voices of young people in her community. She has spent the last 13 years advocating for long term social change for young people, particularly young women and girls. Throughout her program, she has led the coordination, development, and implementation of high quality programs and activities advancing the rights of adolescents. She is currently a co chair for the steering committee of the Civil Society Institute for Health and HIV in Western Central Africa and is the thematic lead for children and adolescents. Toyin is also the women's major group Anglophone Africa regional organizing partner, where she continues to advocate for change for young women and girls in the SDG process. So as you can see, Toyin is really, really well-rounded and well experienced when it comes to AGYW at various levels, from community to the global level. So we are going to hear briefly from Toyin. Toyin, please, can we hear you? Can we see you?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Priscilla, for the introduction and such a wonderful conversation so far. I'm really glad that I'm able to join this, and it's a privilege. Thank you to you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Toyin. So we would like to hear from you. If you can share some best practices and lessons that you have learned from your organization and the work you do with AGYW, and your general perspective on this curriculum.
Thanks, Priscilla. So I mean, not mentioned in the bio, but I work at Education as a Vaccine as the executive director, and we are a youth organization in Nigeria, and our work really is to center the rights of adolescents and young people in health conversations, in conversations around gender, freedom from violence. And of course, we cannot do that without really looking at, adolescent girls and young women and their needs. And so one of the things that I have learned really is that, when it comes to the issue of capacity building or capacity strengthening, we cannot stop talking about like why it's important, why it's necessary. In Africa, we have a lot of bright, young girls and young women, all across our continent who, whether affected by HIV or not, are, powerful voices, but we know how our gender norms and roles and responsibilities can tend to downplay the voice and the agency and even opportunities for girls and young women to take up space. So one of the things that I have learned from my organization's work is that we do ensure that those spaces are opened up, created, supporting young girls and young women to take up this space. And that's where this capacity strengthening comes in. Because sometimes, from a community, from wherever you are, you're brought into a space and, there's all this plenty jargons, people are talking, it's sounding like you're lost. But deep down, you know that I know what these people are saying because it is my experience. It is something that I've seen, I've felt, I know this, but the ways in which these conversations are had does not always make room to, take in the perspectives, the insights of girls and young women. And so capacity strengthening is really key. Accompaniment is key. Beyond just sitting people in a room and doing workshops on advocacy, accompaniment is also important. I take somebody along with me and be like, let's go to this meeting together, sit beside me, when these conversations are happening and people are throwing, terms are all around, you're having a conversation with this young woman, with this girl, to be like, what's your take on this? You see what is happening. This is this conversation. What do you think about this? And then you start to see how in that comfort of, smaller units of conversation, the thing comes up, and then you also support them, and with the encouragement and the nudging to speak up, say it. These are things that they are small, they're not written in paper, but they are really helpful. They helped people like us when we were a lot much younger to be able to find our place, find our space, find our voice within these conversations, and then start to contribute in ways that can actually bring about the change that we desire. So for us, capacity building is key. Yes, we will do the workshops on advocacy, we will do all of that. We would also do accompaniment. And we have seen even in communities beyond just like, girls and young women engaging in spaces and policy, policy making, decision making spaces. We've seen even right at the community level where girls are taking on, championship of issues because they understand it better and they have the right words, they have the right handle to engage different stakeholders. We have girl education advocates or champions, girl education advocates. So in some communities here in one of the states in Nigeria, and you will find that these are girls who have been affected, in different ways by maybe lack of access to education for them or for someone they know. And as much as, the workshops help them to articulate the issue, what then happens is that the big masquerades of those big decision makers within the community, the gatekeepers who look like they cannot be spoken to, they cannot be reached, you start to see that with the support that is provided, they know that it is important actually that I am able to talk to these people, and they find their voice and confidence. So really around just summarizing that, capacity building with accompaniment for utilizing the skills that are gotten. One of the speakers, I think it was Ivy, who really talked about throwing buzzwords around meaningful, ethical youth engagement. I think one of the things that I have also learned is that it's in the doing. It's beyond the the guides on how to do it, the things that people are saying all the time, or even just like we already know, tokenistically gathering young people to fill a room just to show that, yes, they are there. It's in the doing, it's in the intention to actually allow for their insights, their perspectives, their thoughts, and their, the way they have seen this shape the conversation, shape the intervention, shape the programs. That is how we can actually say that they are meaningfully engaged. The other part of meaningful and ethical engagement is resourcing, which is why I am really, I congratulate the team for this curriculum, because resourcing is a way of meaningfully and ethically engaging girls and young women. You cannot just call people to a room to speak. You need to support them with resources to go back to their communities, to go back to the places where they have influence and contribute to change. And we know that it is difficult to contribute to change without certain kinds of resources. We can't deceive ourselves. And so that is the way that we have seen, work. That's something that I have learned, that we see that, okay, we have done some trainings, but then we have maybe small grants or small support for them to do things by themselves post the capacity support that has been provided, for just the technical. So there's the technical, there's also the financial, there's also the accompaniment. That is how meaningful and ethical youth engagement should look like when it is actually in practice. And there's also the part about taking up leadership. So within our organization, we are a youth organization. So from our program ideas to the design, to the putting out, whatever it is that you can think of, it's done by young people. And when you come to our organization and you see like the team, sometimes people are made, people say, oh, they are a youth organization. But when you come to the organization, I actually see the people who are making these things happen, Sometimes it can be really shocking to some people to see that these are actually the people who are making this institution continue to go on, this work continue to happen, this advocacy, continuing to be amplified where it needs to be. So taking up leadership is also something that is key, that you give the opportunity to young women and girls to lead, take this on, write about this, and bring back, it's empowering, it's also uplifting, and it starts to show people what they really are capable of and what they can accomplish, when they have that level of support. The last thing I'm going to say, maybe not the last thing, is partnerships. So partnership with girls and young women is also very key. It's not enough to say like, we're doing the capacity support. It's also important that the girls and young women, whether the organizations or the individuals, see each and every one of us as partners, and not just as people who just want to come and, educate, inform, sensitize, and so on, but as partners, because really the vision that we have for a world, a society where girls and young women have the same access, the same opportunity, the same platforms as their counterparts, is a vision that we collectively hold. And I know that every girl out there wants that. And so when we have organized as institutions, pushing for this to be a reality, we are all partners in progress. And girls and young women need to feel that partnership. And it should be an equal partnership on many levels. So it's not something that, imposes on any of them, but something that consults, that, helps us to find the solutions together and not, like I said, not an imposing kind of relationship. Lastly is where I'm going to talk about sustainability. I think it was Intabeleng that mentioned something around sustainability. So it's important that, this our interventions, this our engagements, our meeting with each other shouldn't just be this one-off and touch and go kind of situations. It should be that, we are leaving things behind that help support young girls and young women to continue to be the change. The name of this curriculum is We Are the Change. And so if we and all of us are going to continue to be the change, then we have to think sustainability in our engagement, in the support that we are providing. So that, like somebody said, when Global Fund leaves, when this other support leaves, what have we left with the advocates, with the influencers, that ensures that they still are a leading voice for advancing the issues that matter to them wherever they find themselves. We have a number of initiatives that we do. One of the things that we have done successfully over the years is something we call a youth advocates group. So it's a group, so it's not just about one person. So they are able to, network, connect with each other, support each other, and they lead on, projects and activities. And sometimes eventually when the funds are not as available, they have to, leave the organized setting of our institution. However, they don't leave the advocacy space. They are still those leading voices. There are many people that I can give examples of, and it's possible Joy is on this call. She's one of our biggest champions, because outside just, what the institution is able to provide, this is something that stays with them, and they are now leading voices. People are calling on them to come and contribute to documents, come and contribute to policy conversations, to speak up in spaces, to contribute to, this is what sustainability should look like. It should be that as we are continuing to engage with different organizations, we are also seeing our advocates, our girls, our young women as ambassadors outside the programs that started this, outside the programs that brought them together. That is how we would say really that we are being the change. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lynn. That was really, 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 really insightful. You have really spoken on how we can go beyond this and how sustainability is important even amongst ourselves. And so we really appreciate you, and we really appreciate all our other speakers as well. Please, if you just joined us, please take a look into the chat. You are going to see um, useful links that are going to lead you to the curriculum. You can also take this curriculum as a course on a website that has been indicated as well. So now we are going to briefly have some questions and answers uh, from our participants. If you have any questions, kindly put them in the chat box. I'm going to quickly take a few. And if you would like to speak, you would like to verbalize your question, please raise your hand and then ask your question. Perhaps you want your question is directed to a specific speaker. You can also indicate that as well. Kindly, by show of hands, let me know if you have any questions for any of our speakers. Okay. Whilst we wait on that, taking a few questions. I think I saw a question from Moses, who asked if this curriculum is focused on any region or countries. From the engagement, from the discussion we've had so far, we've learned that this curriculum can be tailored to specific countries and specific regions as well. So it is not a one size fits all, but it is definitely a stepping point or a starting point, which can be tailored by the CBOs themselves to fit their needs or to fit their niche as well. Is there anyone with a question? Anyone who has raised their hand? Yeah, so there was a question on whether this curriculum has been translated to other languages. Is Kudzi on the call, if she could clarify on that, whether this curriculum is available in other languages.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, once again. For now, the curriculum has not been translated into other languages, but this is something that we appreciate input on. Most of the resources that we have, especially under the PATA Linking and Learning Hub, or at least the PATA trainings, are usually translated to Portuguese and Swahili, but that's based on requests that we have. So please feel free to write in the chat if this is something that you would be interested in, and would link up with the other partners to see, and with the support of Global Fund, to see what's possible and what isn't. But for now, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kuti. So are there any questions? Okay, so I see a question from Kawewe. He said he has a concern about the challenge for bundles. Kawewe, if you can expand on that, I do not understand what you mean by bundles. Is this a specific question to a specific speaker?
All right, thank you very much, Priscilla. And the names are Kawewe Lambi, and then I'm wishing all the youths there, they should have a happy Youth Day. Yes, so my concern is about the bundles, because some of us, we are just using our own funds to at least to load the bundles, internet bundles, the access to internet. So you have to load in bundles, and then we make the so that we have the access to internet. Yes, so that was my question. I don't know if you understood.
Okay, so I think from Kawewe's challenge is with internet bundles. I think with this curriculum, it can be downloaded and accessed offline. So it is not something that is always, you can access it online and offline as well. That is the good thing about this. The only challenge that you may have with bundles is when you are accessing the training, um, which is the training, learning, joining the PASA Learning Hub, where you have to take this curriculum through a training format. You are definitely going to need internet access to do that. However, accessing the curriculum can be done. You can go right now and download it from the Y Plus Global website, and you can have it on your phone. You can share it to other partners and colleagues as well. So there's no worry about that, having access to this curriculum offline. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Any other needs for clarifications when it comes to this curriculum? All right. So I see that I don't see any raised hands. Um, uh, yeah. So I don't see any raised hands, and so I believe we have all gained
Just a
clarity on
minute.
what the curriculum is. Okay.
Yes, just wanted to find out how often are we going to be like meeting, like the virtual meeting, like the same meeting that we are having. So how often are we going to be having meetings like this? Yes, good to be updated so that.
Oh, this is a very interesting question. Um, so this is really a launch of the curriculum, and I do not see any meeting in sight. But however, if you would like further clarification on this curriculum, or you think we should have future engagements, or you think perhaps there should be some form of platform where you would like to share your questions or clarifications or need for clarifications on this curriculum, we are open to that. But please bear in mind, this is just the launch of the curriculum, and we are open to ideas for further engagement on this. Thank you. I see a hand was raised. I don't know if um, you would like to ask a question. Would any of the speakers like to speak to what Kawewe asked? Kudzi or Angelica? Okay, so Angelica is also saying that if you are taking the course online, You can also get support on the pattern linking and learning hub. That is really awesome to hear. All right. Blessing, I don't know if you wanted to ask a question. But okay, I think we have officially come to the close of this session, and I would like to say a very big thank you to all of you for joining us today. And I really hope that you have accessed this new form of knowledge, this new form of tool, which is really significant when it comes to empowering and building the capacity of adolescent girls and young women within our community. So please take note of the link, access it right now, download it right now. And we would like to really continue this conversation. You can visit us on our social media pages as well at Y Plus Global, and you can also visit our partners as well. We would like to say thank you to all our speakers. And within the chat box, we would like to take a group picture. If everyone could quickly turn on their cameras and, just get a sense of the participants we have engaged today. Very quickly, a brief shoot with everyone. Please turn on your camera. It is so lovely to see everyone behind the camera. This is awesome. Thank you, guys. I see a lot of women, and this really warms my heart. Thank you so much. A quick photo, Tawanda.
Okay, thank you so much, Priscilla, and all of our wonderful speakers. I am going to take our group photo now on the count of 3. Okay, so smiles, everyone. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Maybe another one, because I see some new cameras coming on. Okay, I'm going to do the countdown one more time. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to you, Priscilla.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It was awesome meeting you all. And see you on the next call of Y Plus Global. Stay tuned to our social media channels to know what next we have in store. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Well done, Priscilla. Well done, Ivy. Well done,
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.